Aaron had always loved the silence of space. It was not the empty kind of silence, but a deep calm that came from drifting among the stars. His small ship, the Wanderer, was old but dependable. He often took it far from the busy trade routes, searching for lost things, scraps, old machines, or forgotten cargo. Many people thought this was useless work, but to Aaron, every piece of space debris carried a story. One day, while scanning a quiet asteroid belt, his sensors caught something strange. At first, it looked like just another broken rock, but as his ship moved closer, a huge shape appeared from the shadows. His eyes widened. It was not a rock at all, it was a ship. A massive alien vessel, half buried in drifting dust and glowing faintly from the starlight. Its surface was covered in rust, deep scars, and broken panels. Some parts looked torn apart, as if a great battle had left it for dead. Aaron leaned forward in his chair. He had seen wrecks before, but never one like this. Human ships usually turned to fragments after battles. This one was different. Its design was smooth and curved, as if built with both strength and beauty in mind. It was alien, he knew that at once. He whispered to himself, a Scifi ship, it must be. The Scifi were a mysterious race. Long ago, humans and Scifi had fought each other. Stories told of powerful Scifi fleets and their advanced knowledge of energy and technology. But in recent times, the Scifi kept to themselves. Few humans ever saw them now, and even fewer lived to tell the tales. For Aaron, finding a Scifi shipwreck was more than just a lucky discovery. It was history floating before him. He guided his small vessel closer, scanning for power. To his surprise, faint energy still pulsed deep inside the wreck. That meant some systems were alive. His heart raced. If he could explore, maybe he would find something valuable or maybe even something dangerous. Still, curiosity was stronger than fear. Aaron slipped into his suit, checked the oxygen tank, and prepared to enter. Docking was not easy. The ship's outer doors were twisted and broken. Aaron used his tools to cut through a weak point, and finally he stepped inside. At once, a wave of cold air and silence wrapped around him. Dust floated like mist in the low gravity. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor, echoing through the empty halls. The corridors were wide, built for beings taller than humans. The walls were covered with strange markings, half hidden by cracks and rust. Some lights flickered weakly, giving the wreck a ghostly glow. Aaron moved slowly, scanning each corner with his flashlight. He felt like an intruder in a forgotten temple. As he walked deeper, he noticed signs of struggle, burn marks on the walls, collapsed beams, and broken machines. The ship had seen violence, that much was clear. Yet, there was also beauty. Carvings along the walls showed star patterns, flowing lines that looked almost like art. It was not just a warship, it had been something more. After what felt like hours, Aaron reached a large chamber. It was the heart of the wreck, filled with broken consoles and shattered glass. He checked his scanner. The faint energy was strongest here. Somewhere nearby, something was still alive. He moved carefully, brushing aside fallen cables. Suddenly, a sound echoed, a soft, rhythmic beat. His heart skipped. At first, he thought it was just his own pulse, but no. It was different, steady, almost like breathing. Aaron turned his light toward the far side of the room. His eyes widened. There, half hidden under debris, was a pod. It was cracked but still glowing faintly with blue light. Inside the glass, he saw a shape tall, slender, and unmoving. It was not human. His breath caught. "Someone's alive," he whispered. The figure inside was a Sarati. Even through the misty glass, he could see her features, delicate yet strong, with markings across her skin that shimmered faintly under the pod's light. Her eyes were closed, but her chest rose and fell, slow and steady. Against all odds, she was breathing. Aaron stood frozen. This was impossible. A Sarati survivor, here, after all these years? Questions rushed through his mind. Should he wake her? Should he leave her? What if she was dangerous? But another thought pushed through his doubt: without help, she might die here alone, trapped in the rusted grave of her ship. For a long moment, Aaron stared at the pod, torn between fear and responsibility. Then he stepped forward, his hand brushing the cold surface of the glass. His voice was steady but soft. "You're not alone. I'll get you out." The rusted shipwreck had been silent for ages, but now, with Aaron's decision, its story was about to change. Aaron's hands shook slightly as he studied the pod. The glow from its panels flickered weakly, as if it was barely holding on. The Sarati woman inside looked fragile, but there was also a strange strength in the way her form rested. She was tall, her skin marked with faint glowing lines, almost like living tattoos. Her breathing was slow but steady. Aaron bent down, examining the control system on the side of the pod. The screen was covered in alien symbols, but some of them were close enough to understand. A bar showed life support levels dropping bit by bit. If he didn't act soon, she might not survive. He whispered to himself, "All right, Aaron. You didn't come all this way to watch someone fade away." Carefully, he pulled a small device from his toolkit. He wasn't an expert in alien machines, but he knew enough about energy links and power lines. After a few minutes of testing, he found the main line that still carried current. He connected a portable battery from his suit. Slowly, the glow of the pod grew stronger. The woman's breathing became steadier. Aaron sighed with relief. But then came the harder question. Should he open the pod? Keeping her inside meant she was safe for now, but the pod was damaged. It might fail at any time. Aaron placed a hand against the glass, thinking. If it were me, I'd want someone to wake me. Decision made, he pressed a sequence of symbols on the screen, hoping he had read them right. The pod hissed. Steam escaped from the edges, and the glass began to rise. Cold mist filled the chamber. Aaron stepped back, holding his breath as the figure inside slowly stirred. Her eyes opened. They glowed faintly in the dim light, sharp yet distant, as if waking from a long dream. She coughed softly and placed a hand on the edge of the pod. For a moment, she looked lost. Then her gaze fixed on Aaron. Neither spoke. Aaron felt his chest tighten. She was clearly Sarati, and everything he had ever heard about them came rushing back: fierce warriors, proud, distrustful of humans. But her expression was not one of anger. It was confusion, mixed with fear. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was soft but carried a melodic tone. The words were alien, and Aaron didn't understand. He raised both his hands slowly, showing he meant no harm. "I don't know your language," he said calmly. "But I'm here to help." The woman tilted her head, studying him closely. After a pause, she spoke again, this time in halting human tongue. Her accent was strange, but the words were clear enough. "You, human." Aaron nodded. "Yes. My name is Aaron." She blinked slowly, as if testing the memory of the word. "Aaron, human. Her hand tightened against the pod. Why, why save me? The question cut deep. Aaron wasn't sure how to answer. He looked around the ruined chamber. Rust, broken panels, silence. Because you were alone, he said softly. And no one should be left to die in a place like this. She seemed to think about his answer, her glowing eyes never leaving his face. Finally, she whispered, Lyra. My name. Lyra. Aaron repeated it carefully. Lyra. A faint flicker of emotion passed across her face. She tried to step forward but stumbled. Instinctively, Aaron reached out and caught her arm. For a moment, their eyes met closely. She looked surprised, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she allowed him to steady her. You are weak, Aaron said gently. You should rest. This ship, it is broken. We need to leave. At the word ship, Lyra's gaze hardened. She looked around at the chamber, her eyes shining with sorrow. Her voice dropped. This was my home. My people, gone. Aaron felt the weight of her words. He didn't know what had happened here, but it was clear that Lyra had lost much more than he could imagine. He wanted to say something comforting, but the words would not come. Instead, he gave a small nod. Then let's make sure you don't join them. We'll find a way out. She looked at him again, doubt and curiosity mixing in her expression. It was clear she didn't fully trust him, but something in his steady tone made her pause. Finally, she gave a slow nod. Together, they moved through the chamber. Lyra leaned lightly on him as she tried to regain her strength. Aaron noticed the way her eyes scanned the walls, the broken consoles, the fallen beams. Every glance carried memories he could not see. As they reached the corridor, Aaron thought of the strange twist of fate. He had only come looking for scraps, yet now he was walking beside a Scifi survivor, a being humans were not meant to know closely. In the quiet, Lyra spoke again, her voice soft. Human, why here? Aaron smiled faintly under his helmet. I was searching for lost things. And maybe I found something greater than I expected. For the first time, Lyra's lips curved slightly, almost like the beginning of a smile. It was small, but it gave Aaron hope. The rusted shipwreck had been silent for ages, but now, two voices echoed through its halls, human and Scifi, bound by chance, and perhaps something more waiting to grow. The corridors of the Scifi ship creaked as Aaron and Lyra walked side by side. The air was thin and cold, and sometimes sparks jumped from broken wires above them. Aaron moved slowly, keeping his flashlight steady, while Lyra leaned against the wall for balance. She was still weak, but her steps grew stronger with each moment. They walked in silence at first. Aaron wanted to speak but did not know what words would make sense. This woman had lost her people, her home, and perhaps her world. What comfort could he offer? Yet he also knew that silence could turn heavy if left too long. Finally, he broke it with a gentle tone. Do you know what happened here? To this ship? Lyra's glowing eyes lowered. She touched the wall with her fingers, tracing the scars along the metal. War, she said softly. We fought, enemies in the dark. Fire, pain, loss. I was placed in the pod, to survive. I thought I would never wake. Aaron nodded. He had guessed as much, but hearing it from her carried weight. You were meant to be saved, he said. And now, you are. She turned to look at him, her gaze searching. You speak as if, simple. But why? Human and Sarati, not friends. Aaron shrugged lightly, though his voice was firm. Maybe not friends, but not enemies either. Not anymore. I don't care what history says. I only care that you're alive, and I can help you. Her expression softened slightly, though suspicion still lingered. She walked ahead, her steps steadier now. Humans, always strange, she murmured. You risk for nothing. Aaron gave a small laugh. Maybe. But sometimes risking for nothing leads to something worth it. They soon reached a section of the ship where the floor sloped downward. Wires hung loose, and parts of the ceiling had collapsed. Aaron scanned with his device. The energy is coming from this direction. If we can reach the main generator, maybe we can stabilize oxygen and lights. That will give us more time. Lyra raised a brow. You, fix Sarati technology. Aaron grinned. I can try. I don't know your designs, but I know machines. They all break, and they all need repair. Doesn't matter if they're human or Sarati. For a moment, she simply watched him, then let out a sound almost like a quiet laugh. Brave words, human. Working together was not easy. Aaron used his strength to push away heavy panels while Lyra guided him with her knowledge of the ship's systems. She explained slowly, choosing human words carefully, and sometimes she drew symbols in the dust to show him what wires connected where. Aaron listened closely, asking questions. Their voices echoed in the hollow halls, mixing human curiosity with alien wisdom. At one point, Aaron climbed into a narrow gap to reroute a power line. The metal was sharp, and he nearly cut his suit. Lyra pulled him back just in time, her hand gripping his arm tightly. Her voice was sharp with concern. Careless. You could bleed, and die. Aaron looked at her in surprise. I thought you didn't care about me. Her glowing eyes narrowed, but she did not release his arm right away. I did not say that, she replied quietly before letting go. The words stayed with him as they continued. Slowly, the ship's lights grew brighter, flickering at first, then shining more steadily. Air filters rumbled back to life, clearing some of the dust. The cold lessened. Aaron and Lyra stood together, watching the systems respond to their work. It's not perfect, Aaron said, brushing dust off his suit, but it will hold for a while. Enough to make this place less of a tomb. Lyra's gaze softened. You make broken things breathe again. Strange skill for a warrior race. Warrior race. Aaron chuckled. Humans aren't just warriors. We build, we fix, we explore. Fighting is only one part of us. She tilted her head thoughtfully. Perhaps I did not know humans well. Their fragile alliance grew stronger as they explored further. They found a storage room with preserved food. Lyra showed him how to activate the alien containers, and Aaron shared a pack of dried fruit from his own supplies. Eating together in the dim light, they exchanged stories. Aaron spoke of Earth, with its forests, oceans, and crowded cities. Lyra listened with quiet wonder, as if painting the pictures in her mind. In return, she told him of Sarati gardens that floated in the skies of her home world, glowing with colors no human eyes had seen. Her voice trembled when she spoke of them, but Aaron could tell it came from love, not fear. For the first time, the silence of the wreck felt warm instead of cold. Two survivors, one human, one Sarati, sitting together in the ruins, sharing words, food, and fragile trust. As they rested, Aaron looked at her and said softly, you know, maybe we're not so different after all. Lyra studied him for a long moment before giving the smallest nod. Perhaps not. The rusted shipwreck, once only a grave of war, had become something else, a place where trust was slowly being built between two who were never meant to meet. The deeper they went, the more the wreck revealed pieces of its story. Broken weapons lined the walls of one corridor, melted by blasts of heat. Further on, Aaron and Lyra found cracked glass domes that once held navigation crystals, now dark and lifeless. Every chamber whispered of a war long past, of voices silenced before their time. Aaron walked slowly, scanning the place with his flashlight. Lyra followed, her steps careful, her glowing eyes drifting over the walls. She seemed to know every corner, as if her memory connected with the broken ship. At times, her face softened with sadness, but she never let herself stop moving. Finally, they reached a wide chamber that felt different from the others. The walls were smoother, almost polished, and strange carvings shone faintly in the dim light. In the center of the room stood a large console, its surface cracked but still glowing faintly. The hum of energy was stronger here. "This is it," Lyra whispered. "The heart of the ship. The memory core." Aaron tilted his head. "Memory core? Like a black box?" She gave a slow nod. "Yes. It holds the truth of our journey, our last moments. If it still lives, it can show us." Aaron stepped forward, brushing dust from the console. "Can you make it work?" Lyra placed her slender hands on the surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then symbols appeared, glowing faintly under her touch. She moved her fingers with practiced grace, and the console responded. The chamber filled with soft light, and holographic images rose into the air. Aaron gasped. Before him floated scenes of battle, bright beams of energy, ships exploding in silence, Scifi warriors standing tall against overwhelming odds. The images moved like memories frozen in glass. Lyra's face was still as she watched. "We fought the Kroth," she said quietly. "A race of destroyers. They came without warning. We tried to protect our world. Many fell." Aaron frowned. He had heard stories of the Kroth in old reports, but most humans thought them myths. Seeing their shadowed shapes in the hologram made his skin crawl. They looked merciless, their ships like claws tearing through the stars. The memory shifted. It showed Scifi commanders speaking to their crew, their voices strong but grim. Aaron could not understand the words, but he saw the determination in their faces. Then came the final image, the ship torn apart, explosions ripping through the halls. And then, silence. The light faded, leaving only the faint glow of the console. The chamber was quiet again, but heavier than before. Aaron glanced at Lyra. Her eyes were lowered, her hands resting still on the console. For a moment, she looked fragile, as if the memories had taken away her strength. "I'm sorry," Aaron said softly. She did not look at him, but her voice carried the weight of sorrow. "My people, my family, all gone. And now, I am the last voice of this ship." Aaron stepped closer, uncertain. He wanted to comfort her, but he didn't know how. Finally, he spoke with the only truth he had. "You're not alone. Not anymore. You survived. That means something." Her eyes lifted to meet his, glowing faintly in the dim chamber. "You speak as if life is simple." Aaron gave a small smile. "It's not simple. But surviving means you still have a chance to build something new. That's what humans do. We lose, we hurt, but we keep moving. And maybe, that's something we can share." For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. The silence was heavy, but not empty. It was filled with unspoken understanding. Lyra finally spoke, her voice softer now. "You are strange, Aaron. A human who carries hope in the ruins." "Maybe I'm just stubborn," he said with a chuckle. "But I believe there's always more ahead than behind." She tilted her head slightly, almost as if she wanted to argue, but then stopped. Instead, she gave a slow nod. They worked together at the console, stabilizing what power remained. Lyra translated symbols, and Aaron used his tools to reroute damaged lines. The more they worked side by side, the more natural their rhythm became, like two hands of the same clock moving together. When they finally sat down to rest, the faint hum of the core filled the silence. Aaron leaned against the wall, staring at the strange carvings above them. "You know," he said softly, "your people recorded all this so someone would remember. And now you're here to tell it?" Lyra looked at him, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she whispered, "Perhaps, we are meant to remember together." The rusted shipwreck, once only a silent tomb, had revealed its heart. And in its broken memories, Aaron and Lyra began to find not only the truth of the past but also the first fragile threads of something new between them. The wrecked ship was slowly becoming less of a graveyard and more of a shelter. With the generator partly restored, some lights stayed on, and the air filters made it easier to breathe. The hull still groaned with old wounds, but life had returned in small ways. For Aaron and Lyra, it meant they no longer walked in total darkness. One evening, if such a word could exist in the endless void, they sat near the glowing console in the heart of the ship. Aaron chewed on a strip of dried fruit from his pack, while Lyra carefully ate a portion of preserved Sarati rations. The food was strange and bitter to him, but Lyra seemed to enjoy it, her glowing eyes softer than usual. Aaron broke the silence first. "You know, I never thought I'd be sitting in an alien ship, sharing dinner with someone who's supposed to be my enemy." Lyra looked up slowly. "Enemy?" She shook her head. "Perhaps once. But here, now, we are only survivors." Aaron smiled faintly. "I like that better." She tilted her head, studying him. "You laugh often. Even in ruins." "Why?" He shrugged. "Because if I don't laugh, the silence wins. Humans, we need hope, even in the worst places. Sometimes a laugh is the only spark we have." Lyra considered his words. Her lips curved slightly, not quite a smile, but close. Strange spark. But, not unpleasant. As days passed, their teamwork grew stronger. Aaron showed her how humans fixed things with improvisation. He used scraps of metal and simple tools to patch broken wires, while Lyra guided him with her deeper knowledge of the ship's systems. Together, they made the wreck less dangerous, turning collapsed hulls into safe paths. At one point, they found an observation deck. Its glass wall was cracked but still held firm. Beyond it stretched the stars, countless lights scattered across the endless dark. Aaron stood with his hands behind his back, staring at them. "I never get tired of this view," he said. "It reminds me how small I am, but also how far we can go." Lyra joined him quietly. Her glowing eyes reflected the starlight. "On my world," she whispered, "we believed each star held a memory of those who lived before. When I look now, I see my people watching." Aaron turned to her, speaking softly. "Then they're proud of you. You survived." She did not answer, but her silence carried something gentle. Another time, they were repairing a broken hatch when the floor suddenly gave way beneath Aaron. He grabbed a beam just in time, dangling above a dark pit. Lyra rushed forward, her slender hands gripping his wrist tightly. For a moment, their eyes locked, hers glowing with determination, his with surprise. "Hold," she said firmly, her voice strong despite her slim frame. With effort, she pulled him up until he could climb back. When he finally stood, breathing hard, he looked at her with a grin. "Guess I owe you my life." She released his wrist slowly. "Now we are even." But Aaron noticed something in her gaze that went beyond duty. It was worry, the kind one felt not for an enemy but for a companion. At night, when the ship grew quiet, they sat together and shared stories. Aaron spoke of Earth's forests, where leaves whispered in the wind. He described oceans so wide they seemed endless, and children running through crowded city streets. Lyra listened closely, asking questions with curiosity in her glowing eyes. In return, she spoke of Scifi gardens that floated high in the sky, their flowers glowing with living light. She told him of songs her people sang, their voices carrying across open-air fields. Aaron closed his eyes as she spoke, imagining the beauty of a world he had never seen. Sometimes they laughed at misunderstandings. Lyra struggled with human words, giving them odd shapes. Aaron teased gently, and she surprised him with dry humor in return. Little by little, the distance between human and Scifi shrank. One evening, as they finished repairing a panel, Aaron handed her a tool. Their hands brushed lightly. For a brief second, the wreck around them seemed to fade, and only their eyes met. Neither spoke, but the silence carried warmth. Aaron looked away first, smiling faintly. "Funny, isn't it? We're fixing a ship that will never fly again." Lyra's voice was quiet. "Not for flight. For life. We fix so we can live, together." Her words lingered in his mind long after. The rusted shipwreck had once been a place of war and sorrow, but now, sparks of laughter, trust, and something unspoken filled its halls. Aaron and Lyra were no longer just two strangers who met by chance. They were becoming something more, something fragile yet strong, like light blooming in ruins. Days had passed since Aaron and Lyra had begun to restore life to the rusted shipwreck. The generator hummed steadily, lights glowed in broken corridors, and air circulation made breathing easier. Despite the dangers, the wreck no longer felt like a tomb. It was a place where two unlikely companions had found trust, friendship, and a fragile bond that neither expected. Yet, even in their small comfort, reality crept in. The wreck would not remain safe forever. Outside, the vastness of space was filled with patrol ships, human and Scifi, both curious and cautious. Aaron had managed to send a faint signal, hoping for rescue. But every beep of his communication device brought more worry than relief. Lyra stood at the edge of a broken observation deck, staring at the stars. Her fingers traced the cracks in the glass. "We cannot stay here forever," she said quietly. "Someone will come. And when they do, they may not see us as survivors. They may see danger." Aaron joined her, placing a hand lightly on her shoulder. "I know. But whatever comes, we decide together." She looked at him, her glowing eyes reflecting starlight. "Together, yes. But even if we leave, what waits outside? Human patrols. Scifi fleets. Both may judge us, for reasons we cannot change." Aaron nodded, understanding the weight of her words. The choice before them was clear yet difficult. Leave the shipwreck and face the galaxy's rules, or remain in a place of safety and memory, risking discovery. Either decision would shape the rest of their lives. A soft beep from his device interrupted their thoughts. The signal had been received. Human ships were approaching, but at the same time, Lyra's sensors picked up Scifi patrols closing in. The walls of the wreck seemed to shake slightly as distant engines hummed in space. Aaron's heart raced. "We have to choose," he said. "Leave together or stay and face discovery alone." Lyra's hands clenched lightly at her sides. "If we leave, we may never see this place again. It is where we met, where trust grew. But if we stay, we risk capture and separation." Aaron reached out and took her hand. "Then we leave together. Whatever comes, we face it as two, not one." For a moment, she said nothing. Then, slowly, she nodded, her hand tightening around his. The resolve in her eyes was clear. Together, they would take the risk, leaving the shipwreck behind but carrying its memory with them. They began preparations. Aaron retrieved a small escape pod from a storage bay. It was old but functional, and barely big enough for two. Lyra guided him in adjusting the controls, her hands moving with expertise as she translated alien systems into something he could understand. Each step brought them closer to leaving the only home either had known for days. As they climbed into the pod, the wreck around them groaned and creaked, as if aware of their departure. Aaron looked back at the glowing heart of the ship, at the console that had shown them the history of the Scifi, and felt a strange sadness. Lyra placed a hand on his arm. "It is only a place," she said softly. "But what we carry, is what matters." He nodded. "We carry each other now." With careful hands, Aaron sealed the pod and activated the engines. The escape pod shuddered, then lifted away from the wrecked ship. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, a canvas of possibilities. The human ships appeared as tiny dots of light in the distance, and the Scifi patrols as silent shadows. Lyra leaned slightly against him, her voice quiet. "Do you trust them? Those who will see us outside?" "I trust us," Aaron said firmly. "No one else matters. Not now. We have each other." The pod glided silently into the void, leaving the rusted wreck behind. In its shadows, the ship had held sorrow and memory, war and loss. Now, it was empty again but not meaningless. For Aaron and Lyra, it had been the place where their journey began, where friendship and trust had sparked into something neither had expected. As the pod moved farther into the stars, Lyra reached for Aaron's hand. "No matter what awaits," she said, "we face it, together." Aaron looked at her, a small smile crossing his face. "Together," he repeated. In the darkness of space, the pod carried two unlikely companions into uncertainty. Yet with trust between them, every challenge seemed less frightening. The galaxy might see them as human and Scifi, strangers in each other's worlds. But in that small pod, among the endless stars, they were simply two hearts moving forward, side by side. The rusted shipwreck faded behind them, but its memory would always remain a symbol of survival, connection, and the choice to stand together against any odds. The stars stretched endlessly before Aaron and Lyra as the small escape pod drifted through the quiet void. The rusted shipwreck, now far behind them, had once been a grave of war and sorrow, but for the first time, it was also the place where trust, friendship, and hope had begun. Inside the pod, the hum of the engines filled the silence. Lyra sat near the console, her glowing eyes reflecting the dim light of the controls. She watched the stars outside, and for a long moment, she said nothing. Aaron glanced at her. "You're quiet," he said softly. Thinking about what's ahead. She nodded. And what we leave behind. That ship, it held everything. Memories of my people, of battles, of life lost. I never thought I would see it again, or survive it. Aaron leaned back in his seat. You survived. That's what matters. And now, we can make our own path. She turned to look at him, her expression serious but calm. Our path, yes. But it will not be easy. Humans and Scifi do not often walk together. We may face questions, suspicion, maybe even fear. He reached for her hand, holding it gently. Let them look. We know the truth. We survived. We are together. That is what counts. Lyra's lips curved faintly, the smallest hint of a smile. You are human, she said softly. Even in darkness, you find light. And you, he replied, even after all that you've seen, you still find trust. For a while, the only sounds were the soft hum of the pod and the steady rhythm of their breathing. Outside, the stars glimmered, unchanging, vast, and silent. Yet inside, the small space carried warmth and companionship, a light that no rusted hull or distant war could take away. After some time, the pod's sensors picked up signals from the approaching human ships. They were distant, but they came with blinking lights and steady beeps, a reminder that help or at least contact was near. Lyra glanced at the readings, her glowing eyes reflecting the data. They are coming, she said quietly. And soon, we will be seen. Aaron nodded, his expression calm. Then we face them. Together. Lyra reached for the controls, and with his guidance, they adjusted their pod to move toward the human fleet. Every movement was careful, every calculation precise. Yet even in the technical work, there was a shared rhythm between them, a trust that had grown from days of survival, repair, and quiet conversations in the ruins of the wrecked ship. As they neared the human ships, a beam of light swept across their pod. A calm voice came through the communications system. Identify yourselves. Aaron spoke first, steady and clear. This is human engineer Aaron, accompanied by a Scifi survivor named Lyra. We come from the derelict vessel in the asteroid belt. We require assistance. There was a pause, then a response. Acknowledged. Prepare for boarding. You are not in danger. Lyra exhaled softly, her fingers still gripping the edge of the console. Not danger, but uncertainty, she murmured. Aaron squeezed her hand gently. Uncertainty can be a new beginning. That is what we carry with us, not fear. When the pod docked, the hatch opened slowly. Human officers greeted them with cautious curiosity, but Aaron and Lyra stepped forward with confidence. Lyra's glowing eyes drew attention, but she held herself steady, guided by the trust she had found in Aaron. Once inside the human ship, they were treated with respect. Medical scans confirmed their health, and communication officers recorded their story of the wreck, the war, and the bond that had grown between them. Though humans and Scifi rarely cooperated so closely, the officers could see the truth in their partnership, survival, respect, and trust. Later, in a quiet observation room, Aaron and Lyra stood side by side, looking out at the stars. Lyra's expression was calm now, her glowing lines faint but steady. We survived the wreck, she said softly. We found each other. And now we choose, Aaron replied, how to live forward. Together. She turned to him, a gentle smile on her lips. Together, she repeated. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a universe full of possibilities. No map could chart their journey, no past could define them. They had survived ruins, war, and doubt, and they had chosen each other. The future was uncertain, but in that uncertainty lay hope. As the human ship moved forward through space, carrying the two companions to new worlds, Aaron and Lyra held hands. Behind them were memories of a rusted shipwreck filled with silence, sorrow, and survival. Ahead of them was the promise of adventure, trust, and a bond stronger than history or fear. The journey had begun, not with destruction, but with life, friendship, and the courage to choose one another. And in the endless stars, two hearts traveled together, ready to face whatever the universe had in store.